The state of Florida wants you to believe that anti-slavery abolitionist Frederick Douglass was in fact an Uncle Tom. Let me first go to the video and I will give you significant background. Here it is.
Children, our founding fathers knew that slavery was evil and wrong, and they knew that it would do terrible harm to the nation. They wanted it to end, but their first priority was getting all 13 colonies to unite as one country. The southern colonies were dependent on slave labor, and they wouldn't have joined a union that had banned it.
Are you okay with that?
I'm certainly not okay with slavery, but the founding fathers made a compromise to achieve something great, the making of the United States. It was America that began the conversation to end it. But Leo is correct that big problems need to be approached very carefully. Have you kids heard of William Lloyd Garrison?
No. Nope.
He's an abolitionist like me, and he and I used to be friends, but we aren't any longer. We don't agree how to solve problems. William refuses all compromises, demands immediate change, and if he doesn't get what he wants, he likes to set things on fire.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds like you know the type.
Yeah, we've got that type in our time.
So, you're trying to work for change inside of the American system.
Precisely, Layla. Our system is wonderful.
This is insane. This is extreme. And this is the state of Florida. Florida schools have adopted curriculum from PragerU. Let me give you some background and insight, all right? What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, Douglass said, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless, your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery, your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. A nation of savages is what Frederick Douglass called the system he was fighting against. He did not say, it is better to compromise for the greater good of America. He called America a nation which would disgrace a nation of savages. So Florida approved it. Florida's Department of Education just approved a new supplemental conservative curriculum and its instructional materials that could start being utilized in classrooms in the near future as the statewide education shakeup continues. That curriculum was created by the Prager University Foundation. Don't let the name university fool you. An unaccredited organization that creates short educational videos on topics like history, civics, philosophy, economics, and a number of social issues. The foundation was founded in 2009 by Alan Estrin and conservative radio talk show host Dennis Prager. On his website, the foundation is touted as a, quote, free alternative to the dominant left-wing ideology and culture, media, and education that teaches American values. Now let's keep their pictures up. Some people are actually online saying they're shocked that this organization would blatantly lie about history. that they would literally put words in the mouth of men like Frederick Douglass, who transformed this nation for the better. You shouldn't be shocked. These are the same men who told you Jesus was white. These are the same men who lied on God. You don't think they will allow on Frederick Douglass? There's more. Although the organization rails against indoctrination or indoctrinating students on ideas connected to critical race theory, gender fluidity, systemic racism, Prager himself admitted that PragerU content is indoctrination. At the 2023 Moms for Liberty National Summit in Philadelphia, he said it. He admitted it. Prager once claimed falsely and without evidence that black students commit the overwhelming majority of on-campus hate crimes, and that if any racist and or anti-black graffiti is found on campuses, it was black kids that did it as a race hoax. There's more. Prager also appears to be very upset that white people can't use anti-black racial slurs anymore. Quote, how many names have blacks gone through in my lifetime? What was wrong with Negro? What was wrong with colored? None of them. There's no problem with any of them. Prager once white-splained on his talk show, according to New York Daily News. He also told a caller on his show that the left has made it impossible to say the N-word any longer, and that it's idiotic that you cannot say the N-word. This was his justification for using the K-word in reference to Jewish people, by the way. The Florida Department of Education reviewed PragerU kids and determined that the material aligns to Florida's revised civics and government standards. PragerU kids is no different than many other resources which can be used as supplemental materials in Florida schools at district discretion. A spokesperson for the agency told the national news outlet The Hill recently Florida approved Black history standards that would teach students that enslaved people personally benefited from slavery. Now, in all of this back and forth, from the lie about critical race theory being taught in K through 12 education, to the fallacy of rejecting African American studies as an advanced placement course, to the mandate that teachers have to teach that slaves benefited from slavery. Now PragerU getting the pass, getting the go ahead, getting the all clear in order to indoctrinate children to believe a lie. Here are the things you will not hear discussed. You will not hear facts, factual history, or truth in the context of these educational debates. This is always about indoctrination. And I said on day one right here on Indisputable, on day one, I say this critical race theory thing, that's a distraction. There is no critical race theory being taught. As a matter of fact, the statute doesn't even say they're banning critical race theory. It was a catch-all, it was a marketing scheme. What they really wanted to do was ensure that they could indoctrinate students toward a lie, because they know those students are the future problem solvers of this country. And if you could convince the future problem solvers of the nation that there is no problem to solve, they do not receive the adverse judgment that they deserve. So here we are, once again, Florida. Rayyvana, thoughts?
Yeah, so I've been covering this PragerU kids beat for a while on my show because I think it's important to highlight how every conservative accusation is a confession. When they say that the left is indoctrinating children, what they really mean is we are indoctrinating children. So I can give a little bit of insight to what obviously we saw the ridiculous revisionism, the racist revisionism of what Frederick Douglass stood for. The reason in that episode of that show that the characters went back in time to visit Frederick Douglass was because they were watching the news at home and they saw coverage of a Black Lives Matter rally. So when they say in that little clip that everyone saw, oh, we have people in our time that just want to burn everything down and won't work within the system, it is directly undermining what Black Lives Matter stands for. And I mean, this is a show where they went back in time to talk to Galileo. And the whole point of that episode was to show that anti-vaxxers are right. And sometimes people are punished for telling the truth in science. I mean, this is not in any way, shape, or form historical. And every single episode of the show has a political, ideology moving it forward. There's a particular social issue, a right-wing social cause that they're trying to push. This shouldn't even be on the screens of any kids in this country, let alone being shown to them in school. This is mortifying. Of course, we're seeing this coming out of Florida. But of course, this is also the conservative-wide movement to undermine our education system. So we need to be wary and watch out for this spreading out of Florida and into other Republican-controlled states.
That's right. Florida is a testing ground in many ways for some of this very adverse legislation. They are now openly lying to the kids, which means we have to be more intentional about educating kids at home and providing opportunities for them to receive education at the Civil and Human Rights Museum, et cetera. That needs to be just part of life now in order for them to receive the truth.